Ndị be anyị kenekwanụ m unu. Anyị sị ka nkonye chiri ya zerụkwa. Anyị sị n'ụbọchị nketa mara na anyị mma na ihe adị ka echi na echi ada agwụ agwụ. Otu anyị kwuru ya, otu akọ ya dịrịrị. Ise ise ise. Anyị dịka o si dị ya bụ Easter News 24 ka anyị si wee wetara ya bụ ozizi n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nketa gbasata maka ya bụ ife na-eme n'obodo nọ n'ime ya. Ndị nwere onwe ndị Igbo na-azọ n'iru akwụkwọ. Dịka o si dị, anyị wetara n'ozi one of the Biafran activists wetara n'iru akwụkwọ. Quote: Biafran Prime Minister Simon Ekpa's appeal court update. The Biafran Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Ngozi ORABUEZE, give a shocking update to the Biafrans concerning PM Simon Ekpa and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Here they do in details. All right, quick one. Also, update. This is according to the Biafran activist.
And also our allies that listen to us. Thank you all for coming in today. Let me first start thanking Famdi for that wonderful introduction, and thank her for always keeping our records straight on the back end. That is what we have to do to build one of the best nations in the world, one of the best nations in Africa. That is what we are building, the United States of Biafra, which was redeclared on November 29th, 2024 in Latvia, Finland, after over 50 million Biafrans engaged in a self-referendum where they voted to exit Nigeria. And over 1,500 Biafrans gathered in Latvia, Finland, and voted to exit Nigeria. And we declared our independence. That independence is sacrosanct. No one can tamper with that. We met all the criteria to be a free nation. It is the wish of the people. No one can tamper with that. No one can stop that. So I thank you, Biafrans, for coming again today for us to do what we know how to do best, to support the building of our nation in our own little way, and also support our people in the humanitarian fundraising. Thousands of innocent Biafrans that the Nigeria state has locked up in different DSS dungeons, military barracks, police stations across Nigeria and across Biafra land. These are breadwinners in their family. Thousands of them, innocent Christians who are Biafrans, have been murdered by the Nigerian state, and no one is taking care of their family. We have to do what we do every weekend to ensure that we take care of those families that have been rendered homeless, rendered as orphans, widows by the Nigerian state. That is what we do. No one can do that for us. Nigeria state cannot do this for us. United Nations can't do that. African Union, no one can do that. We are the one that will do that for our people. He or she who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. Only us can do this for ourselves. So I welcome and thank all of you here today. Let me first start by thanking our own Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, whom the Nigerian state has continued to punish. They want to kill him. Why do they want to kill him? Because he wants his people to have the freedom, which we already got. That's why they're holding him, nothing more. Because he wants the freedom of his people, the Biafra people. He wants his people to live in a country where the government does not reintegrate non-terrorists into the country, recruits them into the military, the police, give them AK-47 to go to places where the government does not agree with their lifestyle, with their beliefs, kill them, murder them, without any accountability. Nigeria is a killing machine. Thousands of innocent Christians has been murdered by Tinubu and Christopher Musa using those reintegrated terrorists, which is a policy of the government. So Nigeria is not doing anything to promote religious freedom. None, zero. If they were doing that, Nigeria cannot drag the whole country to be a member nation of the IOC, Islamic organization, without the approval of the Christians, a country where you have over 50% of Christians and about 40-something% of Muslims. Tinubu, Christopher Musa, even though he's gone for good, and all their cabals, they drag Nigeria into the IOC. As we speak today, Nigeria is an Islamic state. Britain confirms that. So there's nothing like freedom of religion in Nigeria, nothing like that. All that lies that their agent are spreading on Twitter, I read that and I laugh because they know They are just misinforming people. A country that has a policy to reintegrate and rehabilitate non-terrorists such as Boko Haram, ISIS, ISWAP, recruits them into the security of the country, into the police, into the military, into their defense, into their immigration. All these prostitutes, they recruit them into that because the indigenous Nigerians, they do not enter Nigerian police and military anymore. They resign en masse. Those have been following because of the recruitment of terrorists into the military and into the police. Most indigenous Nigerians are no longer in Nigerian military and defense. They don't hire them. They don't enter. They don't have interest. Those that are there, the majority of them have retired. They have retired. So what is freedom of religion? Nothing like freedom of religion. A country that practices two laws, Sharia in the north, then the other laws in the other part of Nigeria. I heard one of their agents on Twitter writing, why should America interfere? Nigeria has the right to practice Sharia. Yes, you have a right to practice Sharia law, but you do not have the right to impose Sharia on Christians living in the northern part of Nigeria. We all remember Deborah that was stoned to death. She was a Christian. The parents lived in Kaduna State of Nigeria, but she was stoned to death by those who believe in Sharia law because she mentioned Jesus Christ. No, America is not telling you you cannot practice your religion or your Sharia law. But a government cannot use and impose Sharia law to Christians that do not believe in Sharia. That is exactly what Nigeria is doing. That is exactly what Nigeria does. You cannot impose Sharia law on non-Muslims. In the northern part of Nigeria, Christians that have the freedom to sell, to have restaurants, sell alcohol, sell beers. Nigeria state destroys their businesses. They don't allow them to sell those alcohol, even though they get taxes. They tax them, they get VAT from those selling of those liquor. But they sent their Nigerian police, the recruited terrorists, they formed them into another form of military and defense in the northern part of Nigeria. And they use them to destroy the businesses of innocent indigenous Nigerians that are not Christians doing their businesses. All of you, many of you have witnessed where they are destroying thousands of bottles of alcohol, of businesses of Christians in the northern part of Nigeria. These are policies maintained by Tinubu, the expired Christopher Musa, and the rest of those governors in those states. They support that. No, America is not stopping you from practicing Sharia law. No, don't twist it. Don't twist that. We have innocent Muslims that practice their religion and respect other people's religion. But the Nigerian state makes it a law to destroy those that do not believe in the Sharia system. That's what Tinubu is practicing. All of us remember the woman, the woman that was, I think it's either in Kaduna or Kano, that was stoned to death, not Deborah, another woman that was preaching with the Bible. They took him, they killed him. Tinubu never said anything. None of the governors in those states, nobody came out to condemn this evil. It's not just easy, or it's not just okay, something happened without your awareness as a leader. But what do you do? What did you do as a leader? When you hear things like that, did you come out to condemn the killing of those Christians? Did you maintain that? Did you give your people those trainings to let them know that what they are doing is not Muslim, it's not practicing Islam? Did you do that? No, you don't do that. Because you brought these terrorists in to support you to win elections. That's all that matters. To continue to be in leadership positions in Nigeria. Not anymore. Not anymore. You all know. Not anymore. You can't continue to encourage genocide of Christians in Nigeria and think it's business as usual. No. All those agents you send on Twitter to say, Trump cannot tell Nigeria how to practice Sharia law. No. It's not about that. It's not about that. You missed it completely. You missed it completely. You missed the thousands of indigenous Christians that have been murdered in Nigeria, including children, women, innocent, young men and women kidnapped from their schools, taken into the bush, undergraduates kidnapped from their dormitories into the bush. Nobody ever saw them again. And the Nigerian politicians are treating it as business as usual. That is what they do, business as usual. They don't come out to condemn that. Now they'll come out and tell you, oh, we are trying to engage these terrorists. But underneath, they encourage policies that encourage these terrorists to continue to kill Christians. They encourage that by their actions, by the things they do, by their policies. And we all heard the one that is the Senate President, Akpabio. Was it not just last week or last 2 weeks, where he was saying he was going to go to America and come and tell the American legislators there is nothing like Christians being killed. These are the kind of criminals you allow to occupy positions of leadership in the state called Nigeria. Manipulators, liars, misinforming those that they could. Thank God the world have realized what they do. Yes, the Senate President, he was preparing. Tinubu already told him to go to America and tell Donald Trump that there is no killing of Christians in Nigeria, that they are misinterpreting it. We are an independent nation. Therefore, we can decide what happens in our country. The freedom of a nation. But these nations are part of the United Nations, African Union, Commonwealth. They signed up to be part of these nations. And for signing up, there are laws, there are regulations that they are expected to uphold. To make the world a better place. Are they doing that? No. Nigeria must be dissolved for people to live. Nothing can stop that. It's already happening right under our watch. They misinform the world, but not anymore. Thank God for the freedom of information. Places like Twitter, where people have been able to use those platforms to bring to the world notice the criminality of the Nigerian state. Thousands of innocent Christians have been murdered due to the Nigerian state policy. And they used to go to America, go to other countries to beg them for arms. Oh, we're fighting terrorism. And some of these leaders, without the right information, believed these criminals that they were really fighting terrorism. Now, how can you give arms to country, to a leader that reintegrates non-terrorists into his country? And he come to beg you for arms to fight those terrorists. Only a fool can give such an individual any single arm. No, they know what to do. There are options on what they need to do, but they don't want to do that. They can never do that. That is why Nigeria must collapse for people to live. Christians are being killed by the seconds. Muslims are also being killed by the policy of the Nigerian state. Christopher Musa told the world how they reintegrate non-terrorists into indigenous Nigerian communities. When he was talking about Borno State and how that state has one of the highest number of indigenes being murdered by the terrorists, this Christopher Musa openly was saying how, oh, when they get these terrorists, they screen them, those that are dangerous and those that are not dangerous, then they separate them. It is the community that are requested for these terrorists to come in. Which community? The community that their state governors are already sympathetic to the policies of Tinubu and Christopher Musa to reintegrate non-terrorists into the indigenous communities. Those are the misinformation that, thank God, we've been able to let the world know. That is what they do. They reintegrate non-terrorists. That is why the killing in that entity called Nigeria will never, ever stop. Unless that entity collapses and the indigenous Nigerians start coming out how they want to start rebuilding their lives that have been destroyed by this entity called Nigeria. That must happen. Nigeria is already gone. Anyone thinking there's another way to do it, Nigeria is gone. So those agents of the Nigerian state that are making noise on social media, trying to misinform gullible people like you need to stop immediately. Those lies that Tinubu and Christopher Musa, Akpabio and co, the delegitimized Soludo, telling the world is a farmer-herder clash. Farmers-herder clash. That's what they term that. When the terrorists kill innocent indigenous farmers, Tinubu and co, they term it farmers-herders clash. There's nothing like farmers-herders clash in that entity called Nigeria. It is a planned, orchestrated massacre of indigenous Nigerians, Christians, by these terrorists that we have brought in by Tinubu and the Nigerian state to take over their lands. And they have spread that across the whole Nigeria. That is why that entity must collapse. in the Biafra territory, the legitimized governors like Soludo, Oti, Mba, Uzodinjo, all these people are implementing the same policy of the Nigerian state, reintegrating the terrorists into our communities. That is why they massacre our people, the Biafran people. That was part of the reason why we exited Nigeria on November 29th, 2024. Because we cannot live with reintegrated terrorists. There will be no reintegrated terrorists that will be in Biafra land. It's a promise I'm giving you. None. Zero. Zero. The only security we have in Biafra land at this time is the United States of Biafra Defense Forces, the United States of Biafra Liberation Army, the United States of Biafra Navy and Air Force, the United States of Biafra Police, the United States of Biafra Liberation Army. Those are the only security apparatus that have gone through the formal trainings that we need for them to secure the lives of our people. Anything outside that is the terrorist agents of the Nigerian state, and they can never be allowed to exist in Biafra land. The United States of Biafra is a sovereign state. Nigeria is currently occupying a foreign land. They must leave our land. They must leave Biafra land. It's a promise. If you don't do it this year, you do it next year. If you don't do it next year, you do it the upper year. But you must. Any remnant of Nigerian state in Biafra land at this time, as we speak, is an enemy. Is a terrorist. They must leave Biafra land because all those wearing Nigerian military, police uniform, immigration services, fire services, working for the Nigerian state are the reintegrated terrorists in Biafra land. And the United States of Biafra government, you want to use this opportunity to thank our able President Donald Trump for declaring Nigeria a country of particular interest, a country of particular concern. Thank you, Donald Trump, for doing that, President Trump, for declaring Nigeria a country of particular concern, putting them on that list. It's been long overdue, but Tinubu, Christopher Musa, and their agents have been misinforming these world leaders, misinforming countries like Finland, Alexander Starr. I believe by now you should be so ashamed of yourself and what you did. Simon Ekpa was fighting this killing of indigenous Nigerians and Christians by the Nigerian state. And you, Alexander Starr, you colluded with Nigeria. You took away Simon Ekpa and you label him as supporting or financing terrorism. Look at you and your life and what you've turned Finland to be. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thanks to Canada government. People that sees dangers. People that knows what terrorism is. Not freedom fighters that are labeled as terrorists, like Alexander Starr has done. No. Simon Ekpa is a freedom fighter. One of the finest gentlemen we have on this planet Earth. You have no right to label him a terrorist. He's not a terrorist. He's not a terrorist. These are freedom fighters that are confronting the same thing that has made America to label Nigeria a country of particular concern. They have been saying this. They have been shouting. They have been complaining. They have been reporting for years. Nobody listened to them. Because Nigeria bribed their way into all these organizations, including Commonwealth, African Union, United Nations. They slot in their agents, their sons and daughters, in strategic positions, in ICC, in those organizations. So when they bring cases of oppression, suppression, killing, terrorism of the Nigerian state, those their agents that work in those organizations, they sweep those complaints under the ground. That is what they do. I know that's what they do. But thank God, we have warriors at this time. We have people that know what they do. We have people that confront them in their own coins. And they're all over the world, in every organization. We also put them there to unmask this evil that is making the world a very dangerous place. Unmask these evil individuals planted by the Nigerian state in all these organizations that continue to suppress the massacre going on in Nigeria. In United Nations, the deputy to Guterres, she is a Fulani woman. Has she ever talked about? She is the one that is promoting this farmer-herder clash. She, that woman in United Nations, that must be taken away. You must dismiss her from that position because she's the part of the evil that is making the world a very dangerous place in that United Nations. She is the one that continue. Instead of calling a spade, she keep labeling that it is Fulani that are being attacked by indigenous of Nigeria. It is a farmer-herder clash. So she sets this into the United Nations, and the United Nations believes that's stupid. They believe that crap. And that is why when innocent, indigenous Biafrans and Nigeria bring complaints of how the Nigerian state is killing their people, nobody pays attention to that because they have them at the positions of authority, defining what freedom is, defining what human right is, defining what suppression and oppression is, and checks if is it in line with the Western countries supporting us? Is it in line with the globalist agenda? Is it in line with what we have to gain if we let these people become free? That's what she does. That's the only thing she does. If it's not in line, she destroys those documents or she sweeps them under the rugs. And then send the Nigerian agents, their politicians, to travel to different places and start propagating the lies. Just like they're saying those of them that went to Finland to continue to misinform the Finnish authorities. And like I said, it takes two people to lie. The person telling the lie and the person believing the lie. Even if Nigerian state comes to you, Alexander Stubb, and lies to you, you're supposed to do your own investigation. Simon Ekpa made a formal report to your office on the dangers, the killing of Christians in Biafra land, the killing of Christians in Nigeria, the killing of Christians by the Nigerian state, the killing of Biafrans. Biafrans are Christians. This report was formally reported to Finland. What did you do about that? Did you investigate to make the world a better place? Because you, Finland, you are a member nation of both the European Union, Commonwealth, you are a member nation. And those charters that you signed to respect the rights of the people, those human rights laws, those rights to self-determination, rights to self-defense, you sign that before you become member nations of this world body. So when you get a formal complaint from Simon Ekpa about how Tinubu and Christopher Musa and Nigerian politicians are killing indigenous Christians, what did you do about that? You got bribed somehow by the Nigerian state. They use the oil money, the money from the crude oil that comes from Biafra land. They use that to bribe you to suppress those killings. They gave you the contract you got in Lekki. And other contracts, I'm reading you got in Nigeria, the education sector and all that, which I'm telling you, you're not going to maintain those contracts. So in exchange of that bilateral economic gain, you decided to rewrite what human right means, what making the world a better place means, what the United Nations laws are, what the African Union laws are, what the Commonwealth laws are. You rewrote them to please the bribery Nigeria gave you. And that's why you have the audacity to label Simon Ekpa engaging in terrorism. And you shamelessly try to spread such lies to people like you anyway, not to people like the United States of America, Canada, not to Biafra, not to people that understand what freedom fighting is. You succeeded only in encouraging the killing of Christians. Because if Finland has acknowledged the complaints by Simon Ekpa and has done something about that, maybe Nigeria may not go under the list of the CPC. But you, Finland, you decided to do the opposite by branding innocent man, an innocent freedom fighter who is just saving his people from the thousands of killings that the Nigerian state is perpetuating every day in Biafra land. So that was exactly what Finland did. And you conducted this Shambori trial, which you're still on that, but we know what you're doing. We'll see how it ends. You conducted that Shambori trial. So Finland was the one that stood for Nigeria. So it was a case between Simon Ekpa and Nigeria, represented by Finland. Because there was no Nigerian representative, official representative, that was in that shambolic trial that lasted just about 2 weeks. How can you have conduct a shambolic trial just for 2 weeks and you say you're sentencing somebody for 6 years? We know the deal. We know what you did. Where was the Nigeria police? Where was the Nigeria justice minister? Where was the Nigeria representative? There are criminal politicians that made these reports to you. Were they in that court? Did anyone in the whole world saw any of them in that Finland court throughout the process of that trial? No, they didn't come because they've already secretly presented to Finland what pleases Finland, what they need to know to nail us. Because you're holding Simon Ekpa, you are holding 50 million Biafrans. You need to know that. And we can never let you go doing that. You can't. So where was the witness? You collected your witness from behind the scene with the lies, with the manipulations. You went to his Twitter account. You pulled those information that pleased the Nigerian state and you presented it in court. How about all those other reports that Simon Ekpa has in his Twitter handle about the killings, about the genocide going on? Finland, why didn't you pull that same information? No, you didn't do that. You pull the one that pleases you, the one your Nigerian agents that are on Twitter working with you gave to you. And you became a tool a tool used by a country that is a killing machine for innocent indigents. So thank you so much, President Trump, for declaring Nigeria a country of particular concern. We expect severe sanctions that will help people to live, that will make indigenous of Nigeria to live. The United States of Biafra has already exited Nigeria. But as a leader, the lives of innocent indigenous Nigerians, both Christians and Muslims, that the Nigerian state kills every day, it is also my responsibility to protect that. That is why we expect those severe sanctions to crumble that entity so that people can live. We also remember Onyendu Namdekano. The same thing he's going through with the Nigerian state. Nothing changed. The same thing. Self-defense is our right. Nigeria cannot send reintegrated terrorists into Biafra land to come and kill us, and we will fold our hands. No, we must fight back. We must defend ourselves. Self-defense is guaranteed by all notable international laws. When somebody comes into your house to kill you, you have the right to kill that person first. That is exactly what we continue to do. Nigeria is currently occupying a foreign land in Biafra land. What they do is to kill us. They have no business in Biafra land. They must leave Biafra land. We will protect Biafra land. The 40 states of Biafra land, we will defend, we will protect that from the reintegrated terrorists brought in by the Nigerian state. That was the same thing our Onyendu Namdekano was doing. That was the same thing Simon Ekpa is doing. And now, thank God, the whole world, including America, has seen what we have been crying for over the years. Thanks to Trump's administration. Because we knew it's not just the leadership. After Biden took Nigeria away from this particular CPC because of their interest. So it's not even just about America, it's about the leader. The leader that wants to make the world a better place. Secretary Blinken, on his way to Africa, removed Nigeria from that country of particular concern. He did it without any evidence, without the history of the killings going on. So it's not just America, it is Donald Trump, a man that lives by his words. We are so proud of you. Biafrans are so proud of you. The United States of Biafra government leadership is very, very proud of Donald Trump and his cabinets for what they do to make the world a better place. So it's not just about America. When the Democrats were in power, they didn't do that. Biden saw that. Kamala Harris, you saw the danger. You saw all that. You got the history. But did you do anything about that? No. Rather, you colluded with the Nigerian state to remove Nigeria from the list, which they're supposed to be. And by doing that, you have contributed to the killing of thousands of Christians in Nigeria. That was exactly what that action you did. That's what it did. Because when you encourage evil, then you empower the person perpetrating that evil. Just like Alexander Stubb took Simon Ekpa. Within that period, he took Simon Ekpa. The Nigerian state, Christopher Musa, became more emboldened and killed more Biafrans within that period that Alexander Stubb took Simon Ekpa away. Because what you did is you downplayed those reports Simon Ekpa brought to you. You empowered Nigeria because you need their oil, their economic gain. You empowered Tinubu and Christopher Musa to kill more of indigenous Biafrans. Alexander Stubb, that was exactly what you did. You were not fighting for Nigerian police. No. Those fake reports they gave you, that's not about it. You're supposed to ask, what are those police people doing in Biafra territory? How many thousands of Biafrans have they murdered? We all know the killing of innocent Biafrans, unarmed innocent Biafrans that were marching for their freedom at Henry Jonisha, at Aba, at Epo, at Ihamufu, different places. The massacre in Nnamdi Kanu's house by the Nigerian state. All these killings. The answers. We move out from Biafra land. The answers. The last march to change bad governance in Nigeria, where innocent indigenous citizens are massacred for nothing by the Nigerian state. So Alexander Stubb's action has contributed to the killing of more Biafrans by that singular act of taking Simon Ekpa. Tinubu and Christopher Musa told you, if you take Simon Ekpa away, all the agitation, we are not going to be free anymore. The freedom will stop. And then you will start taking the crude oil from Biafra land. So because of that, you just decided to do what they told you. And you brought those fraudulent, manipulated evidences. All those police that were killing, military killing, innocent indigenous Nigerians. Did you also brought that up? No. Did you ask how those indigenous citizens were murdered by the Nigerian state? And they hide them. Thousands of them that were taken away. Their family never saw them. We have thousands of lists of missing Biafrans as we speak right now. But you were quick to jump into, oh, Simon Ekpa did this, did that, engaging in terror. So the globalists, they have this funny attitude now to label freedom fighters as terrorists. Because that is the word they use to quickly clamp down on innocent indigenous people. Not anymore. You can't continue to do that. The world has waken up to see the evil that some of you leaders, you do. Those evil will not last long. It will not last long. So I'm calling on Finland to release Simon Ekpa. ASAP. Release him. He has not done anything. America has placed Nigeria as a country of particular concern list. They're on that list now, which you, Finland, are supposed to do. That was what you're supposed to do if you were sincere as a country, but you didn't do that. What did you do? You took away those that were running to you for help, those that were coming to you to complain to you what Nigeria is doing to them. You punished them. You empowered Nigeria to continue killing. Release Simon Ekpa immediately. He has not done any wrong. He's not a terrorist. Nigeria, let Nnamdi Kanu go. They are only freedom fighters fighting for the lives of their people, fighting for the freedom of Biafra, which we already got, and no one can do anything about that. You must release them. Let them go and stay with their families. Leave them alone. Why locking them up? What did they do? While the terrorists in Nigeria, Tinubu and Christopher Musa is negotiating with terrorists, and they openly showed it to the world that they are negotiating with terrorists. Did they arrest them? No. They allow them to open bank accounts. They allow them to buy houses. They allow them to sack communities and take over. They allow them to collect taxes from indigenous Nigerians. And they tell you that these are reintegrated terrorists. These are terrorists. Nobody arrests them. Tinubu was negotiating with them. Christopher Musa was negotiating with the terrorists. Thank you so much, Donald Trump, for what you did for the lives of Biafrans. May God continue to bless you and your family. Those of you that are seeing this evil from the Nigerian politicians and confronting them, God bless you. God bless the Canada president. God bless the Kenyan president. God bless all the presidents of the world that have seen this evil and said, no, enough of this. Nigeria, you cannot continue this. Nigeria must be expelled from organizations like the Commonwealth, the United Nations, Africa. They should be expelled from there. Because those delegitimized politicians running the country right now, their major policy is to continue to kill the indigenous Nigerians, whether they are Christians, whether they are Muslims, and take over their lands and continue to use them to vote them into power. So they must be suspended. Anything left of Nigeria anyway is gone. So we thank you so much, Donald Trump, with your cabinet. Melania, we thank you so much. We also thank all our allies, African allies, the countries that are stepping up by the day to put a stop, to say enough of this criminality, enough of these killings. Nigerians have cried for so long, no one, nobody, no leader. But thank God that all of you are rising up now to say enough of this nonsense. I thank all the cabinet members, the governors, the commissioners for what you do. Our Foreign Affairs, Honorable Adeze, thank you for your visit for the CPAC conference. And then we have our representative in Burkina Faso at this time as we speak, making those international moves, talking to the right people in the right places. Thank you so much, President Ibrahim Traore, for the opportunity you gave the United States of Biafra government people. As we are fully aware, the application for our ID card, we're on the final stages of polishing everything, but hopefully by this Wednesday, we will restart the application process for the United States of Biafra ID card. And I will announce that. So be on the lookout. We got so many of you, and we have all thousands of people that want to restart the application process. By this Wednesday, hopefully you'll get a final word on the link to use to go and start applying for your ID cards. No other link should be used for that process until I announce the link. All donations to rebuild our new nation that have been destroyed by the Nigerian state. And for the humanitarian purposes, we'll still continue to go to our Wells Fargo account, our Bank of America account, and also to our Fidelity account in the homeland. all the 40 states' bank accounts should also be used to continue 40 states to do their donations to build their 40 states. As we all are aware, the United States of Biafra first ever governorship election is ongoing at this time. We are so happy. I'm so excited on the results we are getting. Biafrans are voting and voting and voting, both at home physically and online. As of today, we have over 8,000 Biafrans that have voted for this test, for this election in the state of Omambala, Ikemba, and Odumegwu, which is the old Anambra state, which the delegitimized Governor Soludo, whom the United States of America have declared him and Tinubu and Christopher Musa as people of particular concern. Because when a nation is declared,
ndị banyị ngwadalụ nne n'ukwu si wee na-esore anyị n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa ka efi were ekwu gbasịta maka ya bụ ihe Biafran Chief of Staff kwuru n'iru akwụkwọ bụ Dr. Ngozi Orabueze. Gịnị ka i were ekwu n'ụdị nke gị gbasịta maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile nọ okwu n'iru akwụkwọ? Drọpụọla ya alụ gị, drọpụọla ife iche n'ụdị nke gị ka a mara ife iche, your own reaction gbasịta maka ya bụ ife na Eastern News 24 webe anyị si wetara onye bụ ozi ọzọ dị ka ịbịa bụ tụsakwa ya bụ ozi ka ụmụnne anyị dozi n'ebe dị iche iche wee marakwa ife na-emenụ and wee mara the update on the latest development on Biafra Republic government in exile. Daalụ rinne na ụmụnne m, ka emesịanụ.